Hello, good morning everyone, or good afternoon, good evening. I don't know where you're from, maybe you can tell in the chat where you're from. The chat we're going to use today is AMA1. So thank you all for being here and thank you all for your patience. We're so happy to see that none of you left the room while the technical team was setting up the last things regarding the live stream that we are holding today. So really thanks a lot to the technical team for working things out. Lots of people were working behind the scenes while Serge and myself were quietly waiting for you to join, just like you were waiting for us to be there. But that's life. Life is a long journey, and that's what we're going to explain you today as well by going through this specific project. Is really seeing how life will unfold throughout the different years that we have ahead of us. The project is already going on for 2 years, but there are many more years to come, I'm quite sure. So I'm quite excited to be here from Brussels, Belgium today, the Art of Brussels. Together with me, Serge.
Hello.
Serge is the CEO of the project. He's really one of the founders. What we're going to do today is first we're going to present ourselves a bit, and then we're going to look into what life is, what we can do with it, what the use cases will be, and of course we'll have some special announcements towards the end of the live stream, as well as some room for questions and answers. We're very much looking forward to that. So feel free to interact as much as possible in the chat. I'm actually very curious to see where you are actually from, so do not hesitate to mention that in the chat as well. All right, good. Let's maybe already start by telling a bit more about me. So I've been in the space for many years now, so I'm more of an old guy. I think I joined in 2013, 2014 with Bitcoin, because that was the only thing that we knew by then. But since then we have many NFTs and many interesting projects that are coming along. I used to start my career at Deloitte. I worked a few years there, became the blockchain lead for Belgium, gave trainings throughout the world for Deloitte in the US, in the Middle East. I wrote a book on blockchain, and today I'm a full-time trainer on it, and I advise on projects like this project, namely. So I've been working with the Commission as well, so quite a long journey as well for many years. If there are many years that are passing, you have many things that you can experiment. And in the context of this project, I'm an advisor, so I'm external to the team, so I don't see what's happening on a daily basis in the projects, but I get regular updates. And I must say I'm very excited to see what's going on here with Life. I think it's a project that is quite unique, and we'll be able to come back on that as well. But as I said, I'm external, but next to me sits Serge and Serge. Sorry, I need to pronounce it in the French.
Either way.
Yeah, and Serge is someone internal from the team. He's one of the founders. And so I think it's going to be very interesting as well to hear what he has to say, as he will be able to answer any question you might have. So Serge, maybe we can start as well by giving a few words about yourself, and you can present yourself.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Serge Gourary. I've graduated from the Technion Institute in Haifa, Israel, quite a few years ago, I must admit. And I've then come back to Brussels, where I graduated at the Solvay Business School with a Master in Business Administration. And I've always been in the computer industry, in the IT development, in the software development. And I've gone through several generations of hardware, software, development tools. So I said I was never as excited as I'm now, being at the forefront of the blockchain and NFT industry. In the past, I've worked for several startup companies in the Silicon Valley, and one of the most exciting days I had was when I worked with the inventor of the Ethernet switch, which was later bought out by Cisco. And I attended a meeting in San Jose, the Cisco headquarters, and they announced to us that our market, which was then valued at something like $20 million, was expected to grow to $170 million the next year, and then $420 million the year after that. And that was a growth that was so incredible at that time. And today, when I see that the NFT industry has grown from nothing in a matter of several months to an industry that is valued at more than $40 billion, I think that we're in the right position at the right time with our Lifestory project.
Yeah, things go fast today. Innovation doesn't stop, but it needs to be prepared, and that's what the team has been working on 2 years. So the timing is indeed the right timing, and the preparation has been done as well. Regarding the project, I think it will be nice as an introduction to kind of explain you how I understand the project as an external person, so that I'm a bit like you in that regard. But I've been following it for 2 years now, so I hope I understand it quite well. And I wanted to kind of translate towards you how I understand the project, so that we all better understand what life is about and what makes it unique. So it's an NFT project, as was mentioned, and everything goes around planets. So you will live in a metaverse, and in this metaverse you will have 5,555 planets. And these planets are really an essential tool to own if you want to have like custody, you want to be self-sovereign into your universe and in the Lifestory project. Because on these planets you'll be able to do plenty of different things. You'll be able to basically reallocate the land the way you want it. You can reallocate some pieces of land for yourself. Maybe you can rent some pieces of land out. But the key point of the planets is really that it's like your own universe within the Lifeverse, so the Lifeverse being the metaverse of Lifestory. So by owning your planet, you're really in control of where you want to go. Now, next to the planets, we also have spaceships, and these spaceships, they move from one planet to the other. So once the planets will be sold out, the only way you will have to actually get a little space for yourself will be to own a spaceship. Of course, these are also NFTs, so you can customize them as you want, as they are quite unique. Now, why would you want to have a spaceship, or why would you want to have a planet? Well, the key point of life, and I think that's really, to me, the innovation that life brings along here, is you can create timelines. Now, we all know timelines from Facebook and so on, and we all know that the data is not owned by you, but it's owned by a third party. The idea here is quite similar, but in these timelines, you will actually be able to own your data. Unlike other social media things where you actually give your data away, in this case, you will be the owner of the data yourself. And if you have a planet, you'll be able to create your own timeline on the planet. So let's imagine that someone in your network wants to visit your timeline or your memories. They will use a spaceship, they will move to your planet, they will land on your planet, and once they're on your planet, they really get into your own universe. They will get into a specific room that is like a welcoming lobby, and in that specific room that will be decorated the way you want it as the owner of a planet, you will be able to guide the people throughout your journey. Now, once you're in this lobby room, you can have different doors, and maybe one of the doors will bring you to some of the timelines. So what is the timeline? The timeline, as I mentioned, is a bit like Facebook. You see things, you see the whole history of what's happening, but it's much more customizable and personal. You can have multiple timelines. So one single person can have multiple timelines. For example, I could have a timeline with my girlfriend where we kind of like recreate the whole our love story from the very first date all the way to the day we have a child, and hopefully we have many more years to go after that. But we could also create a timeline that is specific to the child, and that's then a timeline that we could, and we're going to go more into detail about these things, but when we die, we can give it as a legacy to the child, so the child can actually see or receive his timelines as well once we are gone from this planet. So the timelines have really lots of different applications. You could think about an entrepreneur who wants to create a timeline of his business he's very passionate about, and the ups and downs of the business. Many of these different timelines could be imagined. The idea, of course, is that if someone joins the planet, they kind of see and they get into your universe, and the timeline is a nice way to get into your own personal universe. and you can decorate that. Of course, you will have your own memories. Let's imagine you take a picture, you can upload that picture. Now, because that picture will be an NFT, you can trace the authenticity of the picture. You can imagine that even your phone is signing the origin of the picture so that these things cannot be falsified. So basically, we can say that planets are a place where you will store your memories. It's a place where everyone who has a planet can store his memories and start operating from there. He can decide to share them with other people, to keep them more private. He can decide to potentially rent them out to some people, to make a certain agreement with a specific brand so that that brand can print these things on t-shirts or whatever, but also at the same time receive a royalty for giving and granting that application or that right to someone. And all of this can be done thanks to the NFT technology. At least the NFT technology will really play the role here of ensuring that these things are authentic and are related to one specific person. I think this is already quite a good introduction. I mean, I don't want to be too long. Of course, we're looking forward to your questions in the chat as well. I don't know, Serge, if you want to add something on what I've said.
Yes,
and the universe.
There was an interesting question about the relationship between the planets and the app. So first of all, during those 2 years, we've not been waiting for NFT to become the buzz, but we've started developing an application. Now, at the basic building block of the application is the timeline, and the timeline can be shown on a regular iPhone or regular Android smartphone, or on a PC or on a Mac, and of course with restricted displays that are inherent to those devices. And we've added the virtual reality that will make the ultimate experience of showing or displaying the memories, or even reliving those memories with friends or with family. And so whether you are using the app or the virtual reality to travel through the planets and show and enjoy your memories, the basic building block still remains the timeline with all your moments that are dear to you.
Yeah, and I remember our very first meeting, you already showed me a demo of the timeline. I was quite impressed by them. And this idea of integrating virtual reality was already existing there. NFTs was also existing there. So it's really funny to see that we're 2 years later and all these things are still there. And the project is coming to life more and more. There will also be a marketplace in the applications. Do you want to tell something about that?
Yes, well, the idea is that whenever you have an NFT, whether it's the planet or your own moment that you're going to mint after the application becomes available, those NFT moments or those NFTs will be displayed on any marketplace. Of course, we have scheduled that our own NFT would be published later on, our own marketplace will be published later on, but you can, any NFT that will be purchased now or minted afterwards will be available on any marketplace. And that was also one of the questions that we received.
Okay, and I understand as well that the marketplace will be very specific to Lifestory. So unlike many different other marketplaces, in this case, there will be a KYC to join the marketplace. So you want to be sure that things are really safe and it's a safe environment for people. This is especially important because Life is going to work with some personalities, and
celebrities. Yes.
I'll let you tell a bit more about the celebrities in a few minutes. But if you're buying, let's imagine, I'm going to take a fake example to not give away any names, but let's say that you're working with a very famous football player at a certain point of time, and he creates a specific NFT for a specific goal that he has made. Well, if you buy that on the Live marketplace, you'll be sure that that's from that specific person, because he will be the only one to be able to sell it, because he has gone through an identification process and so on.
Right.
Maybe you can say a bit more about the personalities, or do you want to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one of our football players that is following us and that is backing our project is Nicola Anelka, that I'm sure most of you know. Whether he was playing in Real Madrid or Manchester or Paris Saint-Germain, this is the kind of guys that will benefit from having a timeline or multiple timelines that he can share with his own family or with all his fans. And, through our own marketplace, you can be sure that the NFTs that are produced from Nicola's memories will be authentic, that nobody will make a picture of what Nicola did in the past and publish it as if it was Nicola himself. So that's the main goals of having a different marketplace than any other marketplace out there where anybody can publish anything.
Yeah, and I understand because I remember like you contacted him like 1 year ago, something like that. I remember there were some pictures of the meeting, and he was quite impressed and quite enthusiastic
Yes.
about the project.
Absolutely.
And is it correct to say that he's also have some people around him who might join or who are looking into joining the project?
We are in close contact with all his friends that some of you may know. His friends are in also either football players or in the film industry or in the, or are singers. And we are working with all these celebrities, and we are going to announce them in the near future.
Yeah, I already heard some names, but we can't tell before anything is on paper. But more news to be followed in the coming weeks. Hopefully, we'll be able to confirm a few of these things more concretely. Maybe a question that's always interesting for the people who want to invest or who want to start, who want to better understand the dynamic of this project. Of course, there will be quite some gamification in the sense it's not a game. It's very important to say. Life doesn't present himself as a game. But there will, of course, be gamification to make sure that, well, it's an enjoyable experience. We really want people to enjoy their time in the Lifeverse. We want to make sure that they feel absolutely at their own place. But also another part that is important next to the gamification is the tokenomics. Can you tell us a bit more about how you see these things in your project?
Yes, The NFT is not the whole story, of course, and every NFT or every purchaser of an NFT will also get cashback in terms of LIFC tokens. So the LIFC tokens, we're talking about 1 billion tokens, and I invite you to go and check the white paper where we explain the breakdown of the tokens between the founders, the advisors, and the general public.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. I think it's already quite a good introduction. I don't know if you want to. I think we covered everything. Maybe I'd like to summarize it by saying that, well, to me, this project seems very different from other projects I've seen. When we speak about the NFT space, and especially in the last 18 months, we've known a boom about art NFTs. I think that's really the booming NFTs, and that's why everybody knows about NFTs today. But this is much more than just art. This is really about storing memories, and we see more and more a trend that moves from art NFTs to utilities. Well, in this case, these NFTs will have a real utility. And this is something that is in line with the vision, the early vision of the project, was not to create pieces of art, but to really give a utility to allow people to put their memories on a blockchain or in a safe environment. And I think this is really what makes this project unique compared to many other ones. It's the ability to share your own story in your own way, using whatever you want to use to decorate that story and share it with whoever you want to share. Now, what I suggest before we move on to the question and answers, we can maybe speak a bit more about the use cases that we see for Lifeverse, because throughout the years we realized that, well, it was much more than having a social media on the blockchain. it actually really allows to achieve a few interesting things. I've already mentioned, for example, that thanks to the authenticity of the memories.
Yeah, sorry for this break. Just before we go on, I'd like to come back to the utility NFT. Since I remember that you met Vitalik a few years ago, we were not talking about NFTs yet. And today, we didn't want to just make another art NFT project and publish nice images. Well, from the sneak peek we've already published, you can see that these planets and these images are just amazing. And you could just buy them for the beauty of the image, and then hope that at some point in the future you could sell them for a lot more than you bought them, which is what everybody does in the art NFTs. The utility that we are building on top of those NFT is just amazing, and and I'll let you go on with the use cases that you started introducing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Vitalik, because back in the days we were not talking about NFTs, we were talking about ERC21 tokens. Things have changed quite a bit since then. But indeed, I think the utility of the NFTs is quite important. If you own your planet, well, it's not just having a nice picture, it's actually being able to build something on it. It's actually being able to start sharing some of your life aspects or some of your memories with the rest of the world. Now, in terms of use cases, I think the timeline is an important one. Highly important to mention that you can privatize your timeline so that only, for example, your wife and your children can have access to it, or only your close friends. So Nicola Anelka, he would be able to have a timeline just for himself, and then a timeline for everyone else who wants to join. You could even have a timeline just for you as a kind of a journal you want to keep or to organize some ideas. If you're an inventor, to kind of organize the different inventions you've created. Now, that's of course the obvious case, but there are maybe a bit less obvious case. And I want to take maybe one specific one, which is related to a psychological trauma. Let's imagine that you're not, well, we all in our lives at a certain point of time maybe encounter some bad days or some moments that really shocks us and that changes our lives. We might have a trauma at a certain point of time, sometimes small, sometimes bigger. But very often this trauma is coming from the early days of our life sometimes. And having a timeline that allows you to relive your life, so to say, with a VR headset and so on, might help as well the psychologist to actually understand where your trauma comes from. And by better understanding where these things come from and why you started to have certain reflexes or reacting in a certain way or being triggered by certain situations. For example, myself, I'm someone who, I'm not very patient. So when someone is slow, I get a bit nervous. Well, trying to understand where this comes from is something that the Lifestory would enable or at least facilitate to a certain degree. So I found that one an interesting one. There's also quite some use cases about Alzheimer. I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Yeah, well, one of the use cases could be that a therapist is using virtual reality with his patients in order to make progress in the therapy itself. And of course, another example would be a lecturer which prepares a conference and publishes the conference in a timeline, and he could have attendees look or listen to the conference, and he could even make them pay for that. So all these use cases are being considered. They're not yet there, but we've taken, and I must thank you, all you guys, for the suggestions and the comments that you have forwarded to us, because these are very useful for us to understand what you are expecting from the project. And some of the use cases are just coming from them, from your comments.
The keynote speaker example definitely sounds like music to my ears, so maybe I'll have to look to implement that. Maybe we can speak a bit about postmortem as well. So once you die, there's of course it's a sad event, but that doesn't mean it has to remain sad for everyone. I think we all cherish the people we have to leave behind at a certain point of time, but that doesn't mean we cannot relive some of the moments we live with them. I think here as well, Lifestory will enable you to potentially revisit things, to give a place to certain things, to certain events, and be happy for what it was. Next to that, there's also the legacy question. Like, do you want to leave a legacy behind? And if so, how are you going to do that? Maybe Lifestory in that example, in that specific situation, could also be quite helpful there. I don't know if you want to say something more about legacy, postmortem, because we know there's quite some traction on that side.
Right. Well, it's not our first priority, of course, because we are coping with the living first, and but it's an interesting use case, because that's what we all want. Is that after we depart from this planet, we could have our
could live on another planet.
On another planet, and we could have our children or grandchildren talk to their beloved ones.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. There's another aspect that or use case that we didn't talk about so much, but I think from monetary or business point of view, is quite important. Is you could imagine, of course, the brands coming into it, or yourself as a person or potential celebrity, or someone who's a fan of a celebrity. As I mentioned earlier on, you could imagine that you capture some of these NFTs, you put them on some physical elements, or you create products around these NFTs. So of course, there's a lot of things for businesses to be done there as well. You could imagine all types of things, especially with luxury brands and so on. Don't want to necessarily go too much into detail. We're not going to cover all the use cases as well. I think that the chat is there, and the channels are open for you to bring your ideas and further build on that together. As we mentioned, it's a long journey. Life is a long journey, and hopefully it doesn't end very soon. And
it's an exciting one.
It's absolutely an exciting one.
And in one word, what you just said is summarized, and I think we've shown that in our white paper. It's called the museum of your life.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that yet, but when you enter the lobby room of the planet, you can also go to a museum where you can then showcase some of the NFTs maybe you bought, some specific items you want to highlight as well. I think that resumes it quite well. So I think we can move on to the questions, right? Yeah?
Let's go.
Let's go. So let's see what we have here as a question. Well, maybe a first question, and especially one for you, Serge. What motivated you to start this very unique project? Where did the idea and the inspiration come from?
Well, it has been an ongoing project, and we started with the timeline. That was the first idea, and then we, as we developed the project and the application, we started integrating more features. And we started with the idea of making it an NFT, or making moments or translating moments into NFTs. And it even went as far as offering brands a way to make money out of either the timelines or offering products through the showcase that is part of the project. So again, the timeline is the basic building block of the whole project.
Yeah.
Whether it's displayed through the app or through a virtual reality on the planet, that's our very motivation.
All right, very good. I see there's another question. What is your stronger advantage that you think will make your team leading the market?
Well, it's the fact that we are offering utility NFTs, and that differentiates us from all other NFT projects that are out there.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, I must say, at the very first meeting, I was a bit skeptic by the idea. It was very new. Yeah, I mean, I thought like, okay, it's a really good idea, but like you need to put it into place. And we're 2 years later, and I've seen the enthusiasm of the CEO. I've seen the team grow, and you can't see them, but I see 10 people here in front of me from the technical side and the marketing side. And I think this is also something that is quite unique to this project, is you really have some people and some leadership that allows you to kind of build people, or bring people together, make them believe in this story, and actually executing on it as well. So I think that's also it's not to be underestimated. When we speak about a startup, the first element that makes or breaks a startup is not the idea, it's the ability to build a team around that. And I think this is something that has been successful as well.
Yeah, and to execute. And the fact that we understand the technology, but we also understand the business. And from a business point of view, today there are hundreds of blockchains, there are thousands of tokens, and it's always the same story in every industry. I remember, or I will give you the example of the automotive industry. At the beginning of the automotive industry, there were thousands of manufacturers. Each one was building his own car with all kinds of features. And just in France, I've read that there were 150 car manufacturers in the 30s, 40s. 150. Today we have thousands of, and today, how many of those car manufacturers remained?
Quite a limited amount, but they all merged.
Half a dozen. Yeah. That's called market consolidation. So there will probably be the same process in the blockchain and the Metaverse industry, but we are just at the beginning. And we want to have the best tools to capture the value of this market, and I think that we're very well positioned to do that.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. I think let's move on to one of the other questions I see here. When I fill my planet and after a few years I decide to delete all and sell all of my planet, so all the data that's on there, is it really empty and can I delete my data easily?
Well, that's something we're working on. Mm. We've not yet defined the process how to do that, but it's definitely a very good question, and we'll come up with solutions for that.
I know GDPR was a topic we discussed a few times.
Well, GDPR is particularly important in Europe, so not as much in the States and in Australia and in other countries, but yes, everybody will follow the rules that Europeans have been setting up, and they are very constraining. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about the competition? Who are your competitors? Do you have? Are you aware of any other projects doing something similar?
Well, there are other projects who are doing or who have implemented some of our features, or who have a roadmap that is not as complete as we have. We will have competitors, and we welcome them, and I think that we will prevail thanks to our advantages that we've just explained.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Looking into the chat if I see any more questions. I see here. What do you see Lifestory becoming at the end, and what motivated the next kind of benefit to this project? Yeah, so basically, how are you looking into the future? Like if we speak now maybe not 1 month, in the future, but like 2 years in the future, 5 years in the future? How do you see the project evolve?
Well, the roadmap is clearly shown in our white paper, and we will add the tools to capture moments with 360 degrees cameras, for instance. So we will have a way to live moments as if we were at that time again.
Mm-hmm. All right, very clear. The planet is not really fungible further when I personalize it, right? Yes.
And also to add that, of course, when you're talking about the future, we are also intending to raise money in a more traditional way with venture capitalists. So we have already presented, and we have the ambition to become a great player.
Yeah. All right. I see there's a question about the fungibility of the planets. And I think it's more asking for a confirmation, but indeed the planets are non-fungible. They already come with some specific features. Some of them are more digitalized than others. I don't know if you can tell a bit more about the differences in terms of the planets that are being created. And
these are features that we're currently looking into.
Okay.
So we've not yet come with a definitive way of selling parcels or selling part of the planets, or even dividing it into different verses, metaverses. So that's something we're definitely looking into, and we'll come up with very nice announcements in the future.
Yeah. And I know as well that the team is very much looking forward to what the community thinks as well, to integrate really the needs of the community. So in that regard, I think it will evolve as the community wants it to evolve, and I think that's in the interest of every party that is involved in the project.
Okay, I understand that lots of you are waiting eagerly to know for how much the planets will be sold.
So for how much will they be sold?
Well, that will be announced soon, but we have a very nice announcement to make, and I'll let you.
No, you can do it. I mean, the honor is for the people of the team.
The mint date. The mint date is now officially the 8th of June.
Okay, so the 8th of June, that's in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And of course, the price will be announced before that.
The price will be announced before that. But remember, there will be only 5,555 planets.
So be ready.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you, everybody. All those who woke up early, all those who are waiting to go to sleep late, and hope to see you or to listen to you very soon.
Because there will be other Ask Me Anythings,
yes.
Right? So if you have anything to ask, prepare your questions and stay tuned, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
It's my memories home, yes, my memories.